Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast and YouTube video um, on Ladies in Leadership with Nari and Liz. And today I am with the lovely Jenny Reyes, who is all the way from California. She runs a business called Your Brand Story. She's a brand strategist, a marketing consultant, and supports entrepreneurs to put together a business based on a brand that they love. So, welcome, Jenny.
Hi, Nari. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited about our discussion today. So,
Yeah.
the topic of today's podcast is called What is Your USP? So, USP, which stands for Unique Selling Point. How are people different and what have they got that they can offer as a product or service to the wider audience and build a brand and a business out of? So, it's all about building a brand with purpose because that's something that myself and Jenny truly
Yeah.
believe in, and we
Mhm.
want to help other people to do the same, break out of those comfort zone barriers, and really get out there and build a brand with purpose. So what we're going to do is follow the usual routine, go through a number of questions. I'm going to ask Jenny, she's going to give us her knowledge. I'll talk about a little bit about my experiences, and really we'll just go from there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Amazing. So, firstly, we're going to look at branding with authenticity, credibility, integrity, and uniqueness. So, there's a lot of big words in there.
Yeah.
But
Following USP, which was a big word as well.
as well, yeah, absolutely. I think it's underrated when people talk about the USP because USP really is about being different, about being
Right,
unique,
right,
about standing out, and really an opportunity to showcase your own personality because
yeah,
everybody's different. And to me, it's personal. Your business
right.
is personal. It's about you, reflects your true authentic personality, who you are, and what service you can provide. So, based on your experience and your own business, then Jenny, can you give us some insights into how does one go about building a brand with all of those things incorporated?
Right. Well, and I think, I mean, because we are speaking to female entrepreneurs, and one of the statistics I mentioned, I shared with you earlier was in 2022, they did say that there were about 582 million businesses that were started. So, going back to the whole point about a USP or something that differentiates you, it's all the more important now that you're one of however many million across the world that just started a business in this global economy. And so I think part of what comes in as you do build this business is, number one, you want people to know that it's real and it's relevant, and it's very, like you said, branding business is a personal thing, it's a spiritual game. And one of the things that I do talk about with my clients as we go through certain process, like I ask many questions. I ask them a bunch of questions about, why is this important, but also, like, why should I believe you? That's a question that I always put forth. And it's not to discredit or to discount what they've done, but it's to make you also think. It's like, okay, why would I be believable to the person who I want to serve, and what would make them choose me over everybody else that they've been looking at? And so it brings about, what experiences you've been through, or the challenges or the accreditations and certifications you've done, the people that you yourself, um, or I myself also follow, and learn from, so that I have more credibility to teach what it is that I'm teaching, or provide the service that I'm providing. And so that's part of, just the process that we would go through, in finding out, and building your authenticity and your credibility around the business that you're creating.
Yeah, really, really powerful. There's so much really that comes into this question, isn't there? Because when we talk about uniqueness, we're obviously talking about that USP that we just spoke
Mhm.
about being different and thriving off your individuality. I think there's too many people out there these days who try to fit in boxes or try
Yeah.
to like copy other people or, just be the same as everybody else. And I don't think there's really any fun in that. There's nothing exciting about that because it's kind of more of what we've already had. So really, I think that one's business brand stands out with that
Right.
uniqueness in terms of a personality, in
Yes.
terms of
And
how
we're
they
all,
stand out.
yeah, we're all different people. I mean, we may have, let's say, people are in a similar space, for example, retail or personal development, but and they may offer similar products, for instance, a workshop, or what comes to mind is somebody, a client of mine that has just recently launched her lamb stuffed animal. But part of building that brand is the story behind it, like it looks like a lamb, but then everybody else that she speaks to, it's because when she was a kid, her aunt had given her this stuffy to comfort her when she was feeling alone, right? And so that became kind of her go-to friend, and part of that is the story behind it,
Mhm.
is that's why she wants to help other children, and she's looking at tying up with orphanages where children are feeling alone, and that kind of adds into the brand personality and the experience that she's been through, which is very different from somebody else who would be maybe selling the same thing but having a different line of thought and experience behind it.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah.
absolutely beautiful. I have actually got a quote that I'm going to ask you what you think of this. I
Yeah.
thought it really stood out to me, and it says a consumer's knowledge, experience, expectations, beliefs, values, and motives produce an interpretation that can be
Mhm.
quite different from the producer of the message, and that's by Lawson and Gray, 2008. Um, so that means one, there's what you're trying to portray and put out there, but then
Right.
you're reaching out to an audience whereby their interpretations based on their own mental filters can be completely different from the initial message. And that's why it's even more important to be that
Yeah.
authentic self, to be that credible self, where you're showing transparency, you're
Yeah.
allowing people to see you who you are, and you
Mhm.
have got a brand promise which links onto the integrity we talked about.
Yes, yes. And I mean, it always starts with your own self, right? You have to believe in what it is you're putting out there to be authentic and to be credible, because then of course, if you don't believe in what you're giving or what you're serving, then it's harder for other people to buy into it, right? And to, go with that quote would be the one we talked about, like a couple of conversations ago, where people really don't necessarily buy the products, they buy the brand, they buy the experience, they buy the person that's behind it. And I'm sure you've had experiences, Nari, as well, where it's like, oh, I don't necessarily need this new blouse, but I love the person that's selling it, so of course I'm going to support them.
So powerful, isn't it? Like if somebody's selling something that you trust, that you
Yes.
believe in, because they've already
Yeah.
built a brand of credibility,
Right.
they have integrity, you're more inclined to say, yes, I will buy that because I trust the person that's selling it.
Yeah.
And that goes really a long way. Whereas people who haven't built that, the difference is because somebody might not trust it, or they might not have that emotional connection to that person yet,
Right.
they may refrain from purchasing. And I think it's an evolutionary process. It takes time to
Yes.
build credibility, to build authenticity, to
Absolutely.
showcase yourself, to build a story based on who
Yeah.
you are, and then to sell that. So it's really powerful stuff, and really important for those entrepreneurs out there, whether people are already entrepreneurs or looking to be entrepreneurs, looking
Right.
to the future. So yeah, that's amazing. So shall we go on to our next question?
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing. So the last point brings us nicely onto our next question, which is really about thoughts for women who want to transition from the 9 to 5 to
Yes.
a business, even if it's part time. I mean,
Right.
having worked in like a couple of like large corporates, blue chip organizations, I know
Yeah.
so many women that work full time. They're exhausted. They're burnt out. They've worked in their jobs for a number of years. They're not learning anything new, and they really want a get out clause, as they say. They want to do something different, but they're so scared of taking that step. They don't know where to start. They don't know what they've got ideas. They don't know which one to like kind of push forward, and they
Right.
feel lost. So they stagger and they stay stagnant for years in that process of thinking about something but not actually doing it.
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to these women?
Well, I mean, you said it right then and there. It's like there's a fear of doing something new and something different. And one of the things that I've learned over this these past decades of doing it is, leaning into the fear and saying, okay, well, what is it really? Is it something that I'm excited about to try? And usually wanting also, as you said, wanting to start a new business or move out of a 9 to 5, there's a pain point that's not been addressed. And that's true for me as well. I was in corporate. I had my background. I worked for Lysol. I worked for Unilever, and we did the whole Dove launch campaign for Real Beauty launch. And I was working not 9 to 5. I was working 20 hours a day, and I was newly married. And I was finding that I was doing a lot of all the other small pieces of things, and the agencies that I had were either not as strategic as I had hoped, or not as detailed in the execution that I had hoped. And so that's why I started Your Brand Story, was because I wanted to be that conduit for businesses to go, well, I can have the strategy and have the execution piece to it. And so, you look for a pain point that either doesn't have a solution you love, or you feel you could do better of, and you see if that is a need, that can carry forward, and then you get feedback and you go from there, and then you lean into the fear all the more, because it's like, okay, am I really doing this? But that's pretty much how you would just take the jump. You would just have to make that decision and go for it, if that is something that you would love to do. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally believe in that, and I resonate with everything you've just said there from my own personal experience as well. So yeah, I mean, having gone through the transition myself, I mean, I was working for myself for a number of years, 6 or 7 years, but I was still in the corporate world on a
Mm-hmm.
full-time basis. And what I find for a lot of people, working with people like as a coach, basically, helping them with their mindsets as well, I find that it's primarily a psychological shift that
Yeah.
people need, because a lot of the time these women who are often in high profile demanding careers, which lead to burnout ultimately for a lot of people, they've got their graduations, they're fitting the societal expectations, the family, extended family, like, oh, you've got these qualifications, and now you're doing this
Right.
amazing career. So it really feels like they're kind of shattering that whole framework, that okay, if I have my own business, what if it's not successful?
Right.
Or how am I going to showcase myself compared to, I work for this organization and my title is whatever,
Right.
right? So people sometimes become very fixated on titles and
They've built
impressing people.
and they've built an identity around that person, that, and so if you were to do something different, it's a whole new identity in its own. And that's where some of the struggle will, come from. And then you make the leap, and then off you go.
This is so true, because you're right, because people have worked for years climbing
Yeah.
that ladder,
Right.
fulfilling societal and cultural expectations, and it's all going
Right.
swimmingly well. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're like, actually, this isn't me. This is actually what I want to do. And people are like
Yeah.
lost, going, but why? You might be earning so much, which is a stable salary when you're working for a company, and then it's like, well, actually, I don't know how much I'm going to be earning every month, and is that a
Down.
problem?
Yeah.
So they, like you said, they start and then they stop, and then they start and stop,
Right.
because they don't believe, maybe not in the idea or in themselves,
Right.
or their ability to take that leap. So there's a lot of confidence building, I believe, that
Yeah.
goes in that process, which I actually have helped a number of women do in my own
Mm.
journey.
Yeah.
um
And I think one of the other questions is, as you are starting this journey, it's really about, like, how badly do you want it to succeed, or how much do you want it to succeed? Because then I have seen people who are starting a business, and the first couple of months are a little bit rough, and then they're like, oh, you know what, never mind, I don't think I need it anyway. Then maybe there isn't that much of a motivation to keep it going. But I've seen others who are like, no, I really believe in what I'm doing and what I'm serving. And I mean, they do have that burning desire to keep it going, because they're a single parent, or they really believe in what they're doing, and they want to help people. And so
yeah,
that keeps them going. Even if they fall, they'll stand back up again. And I think that's, part of it is the courage to go, and then the
yeah.
determination and the grit to keep going, because there will be, as you and I have experienced, there will be rough
Of course.
parts to the journey. And it will not always go your way.
Yeah, and I call it passion. This is why I call it a passion-led business. So you
Yeah.
have to really be passionate or about something or believe in something in order to make it a success. If you enjoy what you do, like they say, you'll never work a day in your life, and that's the ultimate goal that a lot of people want to achieve. But
Right.
having, obviously been in the corporate world on a full-time basis, what I would recommend to people, and I've seen this, I've seen many people do this, I've done this
Mhm.
myself, start a business on the side, have a side hustle as they call it, start generating income from another business as well as retaining your job. If you can cut your
Right.
hours, fine, get more time to work on that business, develop that business, grow the business, so that your stable income doesn't just disappear one day. Literally,
Yes.
it sort of decreases slowly while your business is building up and you're getting income from that stream. And in order to do that, in order to decide what to do or how to do it, I feel that women literally have to do a SWOT on themselves. So look
Right.
at their strengths, their weaknesses, what
Mhm.
opportunities do they have, what resources do they have, what could threaten their business flourishing. Have a look at it, and strategically as well.
Yeah.
What skills do people have? Like, it goes back to the USP, that like you said, is a gap in the market that could sell.
Right.
What's different, fulfilling a
Yes.
need that's not currently being fulfilled in a wholesome way. Where can you like get in there? Is there space in the market for you to enter and to deliver something that you're passionate about and do it well? Because I
Right.
totally agree with what you say. These things take consistency, they take discipline, they take courage. All of these things are personal values and personal virtues that people hold. So if
Right.
you feel that you've been able to do that in your job, for example, then you will be able to do it in a business, because it
Yeah.
says a lot about who you are as a person.
Yes.
So they are transferable skills, I believe.
Right. And I
Yeah.
do like what you said about, it's about your SWOT. And if
Yeah.
there are certain things that are you're not as strong in or as confident in, then part of the question is, who is it that you can approach, or who can you learn from, that you either build those skills or you outsource those skills. So then it makes it easier for you to get it going and just to build the momentum. Um,
Yeah.
and setting aside the time as well. If you were to do that part-time and then keep your full-time job, you definitely have to dedicate purposefully a time period for when you are working on this business, to be able for it to grow and gain momentum outside of what you're doing, and then make that decision to leave. That's another tidbit as well.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
from.
mean, I love what you're saying, because these are things I wrote. I wrote that the key is to make a decision, act
Yes.
on it, have dedication, have commitment, and make the time. Everybody's
Yeah.
busy, nobody has time, but you have to make the time
Right.
to invest in what you believe in, right? And
Yes.
another thing that I'll say to conclude is, it's all part of having a bigger vision, a higher
Mhm.
purpose, and
Mhm.
often a legacy. So
Right.
like, when you look back, what do you want to be kind of known for? What is your personality? Who are you, that
Yeah.
you want to reflect and put out there in the world, in order
Yeah.
to fulfill a need and help people with a service or a product,
Right.
based on what you can offer. So those things are really, really powerful. And I do find that as women are being more and more empowered these days, both in their jobs, and more business leaders,
Right.
they are thinking about their bigger vision, because they're stepping
Yeah.
out of their comfort, and they're thinking about, what is my higher purpose, why am I here, what
Yeah.
am I here to do, and how can I serve? Because I
Yeah.
really do believe that at the end of the day, the ultimate satisfaction comes from serving others,
It
rather than
does.
what you're taking from others. The ultimate satisfaction, you get to a point that it levels off,
Yeah.
and it comes to giving rather than taking, which is such a beautiful concept that I
Right.
feel everybody should experience.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to the whole point of branding at the beginning, as you're jumping from your 9 to 5, there's a little bit of an experimentation as to what it is that your brand is or is going to be known for. I mean, if you think of Apple and you think of Disney, we know these brands now just because of the time that it's taken for them to build it. But at the beginning, nobody knew Walt Disney and nobody understood what it was. And so part of it is this going to work for me? Does this resonate with the people I want to serve? And it's a yes or a no. And then you can pivot. But the idea is, if you keep doing something, then you'll get clarity much sooner, much clearer,
Yeah.
much sooner, right? And then you'll be like, oh, this is really what I want to stand for. I want to be known for. And then you can become very consistent with that. And that will come out, as you just keep showing up and just doing what it is that you desire to do. And people will start to know you for what that is. So yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Which brings us really nicely onto our next question, which is
Okay.
about the huge topic of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that's part of the process of everything that we've just talked about before now, about getting out there, deciding, putting yourself out there. It is a scary journey.
Yeah.
There's so many things that a person will think about before,
Yeah.
showcasing themselves as an individual, open for people's interpretation, judgment, opinions. It's scary, but
Yeah.
it's about getting past that point, and then and looking at the bigger picture. What am I trying to do? What do I want to get out
Mhm.
of this? And who do I want to help? So
Yeah.
I believe personally that vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. So
Yeah.
without being vulnerable, without showing people who we truly are, we can't truly help other people. We can't support other people,
Yeah.
and it's a scary thing, but it is the biggest measure, according to Brené Brown, who we all know as an
Yeah.
amazing entrepreneur and influencer. She says vulnerability is the most accurate measure of courage. And I very much believe that, because it's so easy to stand back and look at what other
Yeah.
people are doing. It's so difficult to get yourself out there and say, hey, this is me and this is what I'm doing.
Right.
So I absolutely love that quote. So give us some information about how you approach that vulnerability with your clients.
Well, and many people I think now look for that. I mean, interestingly enough, we talked about authenticity in the beginning. Vulnerability adds to your authenticity and it adds to your credibility.
Mhm.
And we see that in the stories that come out as to why it is that you're doing what you're doing. And so by sharing very honestly and very, I mean, I don't know any other word, very vulnerably, what it is that, or why it is this is important to you and why you want to help and impact other people, then that absolutely builds, like, it will draw people to you. It will draw the people who are
Yeah.
meant to be drawn to you, and then you're able to help them. And so being a few steps ahead, that being vulnerable shows that you can be a few steps ahead of other people in what it is that you've experienced, or so that you can again help them go through that whole process in a less painful way. So that would probably be one of the biggest things. Yeah. That.
Yeah, I love this topic, and I put, from what I've seen and observed in other people, a lot of people do think it is a weakness, but I believe and a lot of people need to see this, hear this, and embrace this in
Mhm.
their lives. Move past people pleasing, fulfilling societal
Oh yeah.
expectations, break the concept of perfection, the perceived concept of
Yeah.
perfection,
No, but it's
breaking cultural norms, society expectations, showing up as people expect you to show up,
right.
fitting a certain box, even
Right.
if you don't agree with certain things, because those things really take you away from being natural, from being vulnerable, authentic, and really showing up as yourself. And to me, a person who can do that is a very powerful person, a real person, a confident person,
Yeah.
and a person with whom you can connect on a real level.
Right.
And I think that's really important, especially if you're doing business,
Yeah.
because I mean, you must have had in the past where you've bought something from somewhere, a service or a product, but
Mhm.
it felt not so credible, authentic. You go away with bad taste almost.
Yeah.
But if you felt that the whole customer experience was really, really a nice experience,
Yeah.
you feel like you'll go back, and that's how people create
Mhm.
loyal customers, right?
Right, right. And I mean, part of being vulnerable is also being relatable. Like you said, you
Yeah.
connect. And that's really how a brand starts, where if you have that emotional connection, there is a functional benefit to what it is you're doing. You're solving a problem or you're helping make things faster or better. But then at the end, it's like, why do you do it? Well, if you think of the brands that you love, it's like, I love it just because. And I'm so, it's not even a second thought. It's like when I think of a computer, it's like for sure we're going Apple. You know, it's that connection that they build, and part of it is the vulnerability behind it, and is the journey. Like, you know, that they were real people, you know, that they've gone through what it is that you're going through, and you know that they can be helped. So
Yeah, it's actually to me the greatest strength of all, and in particular as we talk about women. So women are
yeah,
often they refrain from showing their vulnerability because they think
right,
there's this misconception about women being helpless victims and needing
right,
to
yeah,
save them. But that's not the case at all. It doesn't mean you're helpless, and it doesn't mean you're a victim. It
wow.
actually means that you're human. So unless we open up in honesty, how can
Yeah.
we actually help other people? How can we
And
help other people with similar issues or problems to heal from our own experiences?
yeah,
And how can we also help future generations unless we show that vulnerability? So that's why I
right,
think it's so powerful. And I'll give you an example. Like I've talked about this before, like my own upbringing, male domination, highly masculine environment, the men rule the roost. And if vulnerability or emotions were brought up, then literally people would be falling off the chair. Like, why are you talking about your emotions? Get to business, get to work. What's the
yeah,
outcome? What's the result? But
yeah.
actually, coming out of that and thinking about it, they're all emotional beings. Nobody's a robot. So stop pretending to be a robot and hiding your emotions away. Bring them out. And this is something a lot of men probably can benefit from hearing is that
Right.
that's what we want. Women want men to be show their emotions as well.
Mhm.
I know women are better at doing that because we're probably biologically and neurologically programmed to be better at doing that. But it really is where that vulnerability shows, and the credibility and the authenticity
Yeah.
connects.
And I like what
So
you said, because I mean, it's not a weakness, but it's really more
yeah,
of a strength to be able to actually show it, and to show, or to at least tune in to the feelings, and be able to say it, or follow that. And that shows a lot of strength and a lot of courage, as the quote had said earlier, like, you know,
yeah.
and that is a good way to build
Yeah.
forward.
And often, also, the other thing I'll say is that only if we identify our weaknesses can we strive to better ourselves and
Yes,
pinpoint the areas for improvement.
yes,
Because how can you improve and this is where the constructive criticism comes in, where you're
yes,
actually telling somebody something to help them with good intention. It's not an
yes,
opinion, it's not a judgment to put somebody down.
right,
It's constructive. So unless we're
right,
constructive with ourselves, how can we then do that, you know, for other people?
yeah.
So and people think about the emotional exposure, the risk, the uncertainty, what are people going to think? But really, what I would say is, who is there to impress?
Right. Well, and if you are intending to serve other people, then it's not necessarily about you. And so whatever it is that you do is there to help others. And if you put that, I mean, and I've seen that even in people that I've worked with, and people that I've, you know, that even if just they're presenting in a room, it's like they're worried about what people will think about me. No, but think about what's the message that you're trying to get across. And anything that else that you do, is it's not about you, it's about everybody else that's here and that's listening and that will receive that information. So that making you vulnerable then doesn't necessarily mean, it's of less importance than what the people are getting from what it is that you're saying or doing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. I love that. I love that topic, and I love that conversation. So thank you for that.
We can keep
And what
going.
yeah, we could do. The next question is about building a brand in terms of a full package. So looking
Mhm.
at the different pieces of the puzzle and how to
Yeah.
come at that in an optimum way to help people to build that brand of purpose. So yeah,
I do love that topic too, because I mean, part of the reason why it is hard to build a brand is that some people just think of a brand as a logo, or just as a website, or just as colors. But in reality, and or sometimes as copy. But again, in reality, it's not just one piece of each. It's a whole picture. So I like to see it as a puzzle that you put together, And some of it will come very naturally, like the edges of the puzzle where it's going to go in what place, but the others take a little bit of time to build. And if you are to start like the way we are thinking about branding right now, we started with what would make me stand out, what are my personality, what would make me different, why would people believe me? Those are foundational pieces, like your values, your personality, your story, and then that can come together in how it's expressed in different forms, like copy being words. I know some people think of copy as copywriting, but it's more of like the words, the tone, the visuals, the logo or the identity that you put together. It's many different pieces in a full experience that you don't always give as a full package once, but it comes one at a time, step by step, and then it's building that bigger picture. So that I like to think of branding as that. And that's why it takes some time and consistency and of course clarity to begin with, so that you can put that right association and emotion out there for people to resonate with.
Yeah, I love that because an experience that I've been through myself. I'm going through currently at the moment, and I really have learned that consistency is key. And your brand, it continually evolves based on your own growth and development as well.
Right.
So it's not that you need to have all the answers right now. You can allow them to come naturally. And I do believe truly believe in following your instincts. And I think that's where the most fruitful answers come from.
Right.
So I would say that you enable your growth and immerse yourself in that branding, and the different, like you say, the edges, or I call it the arms or the sections of the branding, grows with time, and the evolution of your own thoughts and your ideas. So as your creativity grows, that's how you bring in all these extra niceties and make it like a all-encompassing, wholesome brand.
And it's interesting too, especially from a personal brand perspective. You are your brand to begin with. We are our brands to begin with, right? And so what is it about ourselves? I mean, for myself, like maybe part of my experience is my journey through motherhood and the things that help me become the entrepreneur that I am. And the values, as you said, they evolve, but it does have a lot of how I run my life, and how I want to run my business as it grows. And so I think some people also think of brand, professional and personal life as separate. As an entrepreneur, it tends to be pretty much one and the same. And it should all kind of sync together so that it again goes back to the authenticity and the credibility and the vulnerability. So it ties it all back in.
Yeah, that's just beautiful, isn't it? And it is an evolving journey. You grow, you become better, you learn things, you take on new things, you drop old things. You do.
Right.
You do that as you grow, as you develop, as you become more insightful, you become more creative, new thoughts, new ideas enter your mind, you go to different places, you have different visions, light bulb moments. So it's a really beautiful journey, actually. I really enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying it. And it's amazing.
It never stops.
It does, it helps. You have to just keep that thinking brain on. I have the opposite problem of trying to switch my brain off and give it a rest, but it's a great experience as long as you're open-minded and open to everything. That's what creativity is all about, and then to bring that into your brand is just a beautiful experience. So and having people like yourself around who are gurus in the branding world, they really help to kind of prevent people making mistakes, and also accelerate their their own process in the branding experience. Amazing.
Well,
So
and it's always a conversation. I mean, it's not there's no one right way. What could work for me may work differently
100%.
for you, right? And so I think that's a good thing to be able to recognize, as well as like you and I, we are guides for people to be able to develop that brand, or that mindset, or however it is that they want to put themselves forward. At the end of the day, we go back to that whole, it's your decision. You make that decision and you go and you take the steps.
Amazing. Yeah, exactly. As long as you're willing to put the action and the
Yeah.
time in, then you can only be better and achieve more. So that's great. So that brings us on to the last question, which is about tips on helping women
Yeah.
to build a brand conscientiously. So it does,
Mhm.
and I know we've talked about of it, credibility, authenticity, and uniqueness, emotional connection. All of that comes into this. So, what have you got to add to helping women to be conscientious about that journey?
I do believe it's really just reiterating, like you said, or you said it earlier, it's like the people that want to make the impact and serve others, that's where the meaningfulness and the purpose of your brand comes out. And we had, again, in a previous conversation, we were like, well, if it's about making money, I mean, then you kind of know that that's not the be all and end all. It's a nice um, kind of offshoot, right? To be able to make
Yeah,
an I do have a coach that does say, like, income will follow impact. Like, she always says that, where
that's
if
beautiful.
you make the impact, then the income will follow. And so if the purpose really is to serve, then I think you're headed in the right direction. And to be able to understand how to serve best, I mean, then
Yeah,
you look at working on your business, of course, the parts of your business, the pieces of the puzzle. But again, the key piece, I would say, is working on yourself. And that's why we look at people like you do we do the work. I do the work on myself so that it can
yeah.
come out in my business. I'm sure you are the same, and the people
Mhm.
that you work with and the people you serve um, will do the same, as well, as they are coached by you. So yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and it's so important to make this point because there's so many
Yeah.
people out there these days who are saying, "Oh, do these things and I can get you to six
Mhm.
figures, seven figures, and all of this." And they're talking about numbers,
Yeah.
and I think that really takes people away from like their brand promise, their purpose, their own authenticity. Because I totally agree. If you believe in something and if it's purposeful, if you're passionate about it, and if you do it from a good place rather
Yeah.
than focusing on the numbers and making the money will follow. But that's secondary, I believe.
Right.
And I'm not saying that everybody has to be the same. It's what you want to get out of it. But even if you are focused on the money, and that's okay, it's still important to start with the idea, communicating that idea, that message, that purpose, fulfilling a need, and doing it by focusing on the people that you're trying to serve rather than how much you're going to make. And that's
Right.
how you do it better.
Yeah. And I do
So,
believe people will feel your heart.
oh,
Like,
100%.
they'll feel your authenticity. They'll feel that you really, really want to be able to give,
Hmm.
and provide some sense of increase to other people. And that's what will generate, the beginning momentum, and then get it sustained. And then it will become pretty much a bigger than yourself, right? Which is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
ultimately our businesses and our brands are about. It's bigger than us.
It's bigger than us. But I also believe that, what we spoke a little bit about earlier, what we touched on in terms of the design of the brand concept. I think
Mhm.
it is important to have the right emotional colors that are aligned to your message and your target audience. Because
Right.
these little things also help people to connect. It's amazing how
Yes.
color branding is so powerful and how the eyes perceive different colors for
Right.
different messages. Something I learned very recently. And I
Yeah.
thought it was really powerful. And you don't even know you're doing it when you're looking at a website or you're looking at a logo. You make a
Right.
decision within a couple of seconds about what it means generally and
Mhm.
what it means to you.
Mhm.
If you resonate with it, if you want to use that service, it's so powerful. And also I believe in having little sort of niceties as part of the branding. So if you're giving a product and you're delivering that product, you're delivering it with maybe, I don't know, a ribbon on it or some chocolate
Yeah.
or
Well,
with nice wrapping on it, because when
yeah,
somebody opens it and they look at it, it just makes the whole experience much
right.
prettier and it
That's it.
feels nicer. It's all about connecting to a person's emotions and how they feel,
Right.
making
And
them
if
feel
you
good.
are, I mean, again, well, so we talked about service and you talked about the experience. I like when you said experience, and you're
Yeah,
looking at the whole journey, the whole what we call a customer journey, where it's from start to finish. You look
yeah,
at when before they even get to what it is you're offering, your program, your service, to all the way through, so that you're able to carry your brand and your promise through and get them that change or that transformation that they're looking for at the other side. And that in effect makes makes you very meaningful and purposeful in
Yeah.
the end.
It's just beautiful, and you're absolutely right. And I believe that if you focus on the whole brand journey, whole customer experience journey, that's how you'll get your loyal customers. People will keep coming back for more. People who will then be like word of mouth and tell other people, because
Yeah.
if they believe you, if someone believes in something, they're more inclined to share it. They
Yes.
benefited to something, they'll tell their family, their friends, and other people.
Yeah.
So overall, people might think about doing a quick fix, but the quick
Yeah.
fix is never the answer. It's about
No.
focusing on the whole journey, because
Right.
that's how you get loyalty. If you just
Right.
focus on doing something quickly just to get have your needs fulfilled or get the money in the door, right?
Yeah.
That might just be a one-off transaction. Whereas if
Right.
it's like you said, the whole journey, and you focus on that, and you do it from a
Mhm.
loving, authentic place, the loyalty comes. And I'm sure most all businesses want loyal customers.
Yes, yes. And when you develop, I mean, a lot of people look at, I need to serve as many as I can, as quickly as I can. I think one of the things in building that conscientious brand is starting with the one, like the one person that you know whose life you can help and transform across this journey, getting them there, and then doing it again and again, and then building that. And as you said, referrals are the most powerful form of marketing, because
Awesome.
everybody now looks at who is it. Like, I'll ask people I know, like, what's the restaurant you recommend, or what's this, and it comes from that experience that they had, versus,
Yeah.
any kind of paid advertising that comes out. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. There's just something else I read that I'm going to share as we conclude.
Yeah.
You can share your thoughts. So, branding overall, it's a reputational building measure. It's long-term cumulative effort with no guarantee of success.
It's,
So,
well, if you do put your heart, I believe, in your brand, and as you build your business, I do feel that that success can be predictable. And I mean, it also
okay,
depends
yeah,
on how you define success, right? If
yeah.
you're out to serve people and you know that you've done it, then I think that's successful, and everything else is kind of like an offshoot and will follow after. But it does take time. It becomes a company's biggest asset, as you look at it on the balance sheet. If we were to do a balance sheet, it's on the equity side of things, and that is something that is done over the long term. And it's built over time, and it's just refined and bettered as you go, and as you enjoy the journey through it. So I think
Wow.
that yeah.
Amazing. It's been such a thought-provoking conversation today. I've got so much out of it. Thank you so much for being here. And I really hope that it's helped the audience, women out there who are maybe stuck in a 9 to 5, who have ideas to get out of that comfort zone, break their own barriers, and live a purpose and passion fueled life, doing something that they love, that they enjoy, and that they can get there. They can believe in themselves enough to take the risk, to take the leap, and do what will truly make them happy. So it's been beautiful. I know I'm inspired and motivated after the conversation. So thank you, Jenny.
Thank you, Nari. Thank you for having me. I love being here.
Amazing. So can you just tell our audience before you go where people can find you if they want to connect to build that
Oh,
all
awesome.
that brand?
Yeah. I do have my website. It's www.yourbrandstory.co. And then the same for Instagram, LinkedIn, or Facebook. So you can find me at yourbrandstory.co.
Amazing. And just a reminder, I'm SkyHigh Coaching on Instagram and Facebook, and my website, which is almost ready, is called naricore.com. So you can find me on there. And until next time, thank you very much for being here. I hope you got lots out of it as we did, and see you next time.